We're about to find out what the United States Department of Justice is made of, because it can find this leaker if it wants to. And once that leaker is found, that person should be fired. That person should be disbarred. That person should be the defendant and whomever cares to bring a civil lawsuit, and that person should be prosecuted. That person also has a pretty difficult decision to make here in the next few days. I hope that I'm accurate, believe I'm accurate, in suggesting that every person who had access to this document that was leaked, is going to get a visit by the FBI. And the person who leaked this document is going to have to either tell the truth or lie to an FBI agent, which subjects them to criminal prosecution. So let's hope that our Department of Justice does its job in at least a small way, tries to restore a little bit of the integrity. This misguided zealot who leaked this document took away from the American people.
Interesting separation of powers question, why FBI agents from the executive branch should be running around within the Supreme Court interviewing clerks and staff and justices themselves if it's not appropriate for Congress to exercise its legislative powers with regard to those standards. So it will be interesting to see that.
Well, let me respond to that, Mr. Chairman. As you know, the United States Supreme Court has its own police force, and I don't think it's at all uncommon to have police forces cooperate. And what I hope happens, everybody's entitled to his opinion, but what I hope happens is that the authorities at the Department of Justice, who I believe will be called in, should be called in, put the full force and power of their agency to find out who leaked this document and to prosecute that person civilly and criminally to the full extent of the law. I don't care who it is. I don't care what their politics is. This isn't right.
And I guess we'll begin by trying to identify what law that person might have violated.
Professor Frost, I take it that you think the recusal provisions that the United States Supreme Court uses are inadequate. Let me ask you, what do you think undermines the integrity of the United States Supreme Court more, in your judgment? It's recusal provisions, or a member of the United States Senate going to the steps of the Supreme Court and threatening justices by name if they don't rule the way he wants on Roe v. Wade?
I take it that this hearing is to consider a bill and to consider possible legislative reform testimony. And here's what this institution could do.
Yes, ma'am, but first, could you answer my question?
So your question is whether people speaking out against the court is more damaging to the court?
No, wasn't my question. My question is, what do you think undermines the integrity of the United States Supreme Court? The inadequacy, in your opinion, of its recusal provisions, or having a member of the United States Senate go on the steps of the United States Supreme Court in front of God and country and threaten justices by name if they do not vote the way he wants them to vote on Roe v. Wade?
I have seen the court come under attack from so many different sources.
Yes, ma'am, but what about that particular?
I think that's a problem. I would certainly not support a senator criticizing the court. It's also a problem when the Senate of the United States will not confirm a nominee for over a year, leaving the court at 8 justices.
Give me examples in the last 20 years of specific acts of ethical misconduct by the United States Supreme Court justices.
I can definitely send you the allegations of misconduct in the Supreme Court. The perception of misconduct has the same impact as actual misconduct.
But I'm asking for actual acts of misconduct.
Because there's no body to make the legal decision whether something is.
I've been disappointed in the way the Supreme Court has voted before. I've been reading Supreme Court opinions since I was in law school, and I realize what you're thinking. You know, life is short. Kennedy should get one. But I enjoy reading Supreme Court opinions. For the longest time, it was part of my job when I taught in law school. Some of them I agree with. Some of them I don't. But I have never and never will attack the institution of the United States Supreme Court. Now, we're about to find out what our Department of Justice is made of. We have had an unprecedented leak, unprecedented, as despicable as it is dangerous at the United States Supreme Court. And for those who don't understand how the United States Supreme Court works internally, it's not like the United States Congress, where thousands of people could have access to a document. This is a very finite group of folks who could have had access to that document. And this leak, regardless of whether you agree with the draft opinion or disagree, has seriously undermined the confidence that we all have in the United States Supreme Court. What do you think will be the impact on the United States Supreme Court and people's respect for it as a result of this leak about the draft opinion?
You know, it's an empirical question. I really couldn't say. The substance of the leak, which shows that the court is going against the majority of the country, is much more damaging to the legitimacy than the leak itself.
Thank you, Professor.
Well, the leak last night's obviously outrageous and should be taken very seriously, but I have a lot of confidence in the court and the American public, and I think that the Supreme Court is going to rise above the circumstance and, as it's done for decades, apply the rule of law and issue a decision that it believes reflects the constitutional principles in the Dobbs case and all others, and trust that the Chief Justice and the court will be able to resolve and issue an honest opinion quickly.
Okay.
I think the leak was unethical, but I do not think it will damage the court. And I think far more damaging to the court was the failure to fill a seat for nearly a year when a nominee by then President Obama was pending and not acted upon.
Okay. Professor, you're a professor too.
Thank you. I think the leak was seismic, devastating, and heartbreaking. It should go without saying that the Supreme Court can't fulfill its Article III responsibility if drafts of opinions are leaked and circulated for what appear to be political purposes. That said, I do think the Supreme Court is fully capable of keeping its eye on the ball and deciding this case ultimately through a final official published opinion in the way that the law and the Constitution command.
I think the leak was highly inappropriate, and it also raises the question of what are the specific rules that apply to the officials and the employees in the Supreme Court, because it's not clear about their duty of confidentiality as opposed to the duty of confidentiality for all of the other clerks across the lower courts.
I will not be a part of any effort to change the United States Supreme Court because I do not like the way that it is voting. Judges are not supposed to be politicians with robes. Judges are not supposed to tell us what the law ought to be. They are supposed to tell us what the law is. That doesn't mean that sometimes judges don't make law. I don't much agree with my woker fellow Americans who think they're smarter and more virtuous than the American people, who think they have a monopoly on the truth. I believe they have the right to say what they want to. I'm rather fond of the Constitution. I'm rather fond of the part about the three branches of government. I'd like to maintain them. I'd like to lift up the institutions of the Constitution, including in the United States Supreme Court. I'm not interested in tearing them down because I don't happen to like the way they vote. You know, the American people aren't stupid. They're not morons. They may not read Aristotle every day because they're too busy earning a living. But the American people can see that all sides are represented in this so-called dark money.